Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Executing a project or campaign is one thing. How disciplined the process can be another. Mike Goldman offers 3 practical ways that leaders can build individual and team discipline. Mike's a leadership team coach with more than 30 years coaching and consulting experience behind him. He's also author of the #1 best-selling book, Breakthrough Leadership Team. So, of all the virtues and business fundamentals, how important is discipline really?
For me, it's got to be at the top or near the top. You can have a great strategy. You could hire wonderful people. You could have a great culture. You could have all those things. But if you don't have discipline, you're not getting things done. And I hear all the time from CEOs, what do I have to do? Do I have to just fire everybody? They're not doing what I asked them to do. And no, that's not the answer. There's a better way. So discipline is critical.
Well, in your book, you talk about the 3 disciplines of execution. Tell us a bit about them.
The first one is aligning around a small number of priorities. Very often when I initially talk to a CEO that may be a client or a prospective client, I will say to them, what are your most important priorities for the next year or the next 90 days? And they will list out 12 or 15 things that are really important to them. That's not a small number of priorities. That's a laundry list of stuff. So aligning around a small number of priorities says, as an organization, for the next year, for the next 90 days, what are the 2 or 3 most important things you have to do as an organization, which, by the way, is different than saying how much money are we going to make. So that's the first discipline, aligning around a small number of priorities. The second I call measuring what matters. The second is about knowing the score. How do we measure success within an organization? That success may be about top line or bottom line on your profit and loss statement. It may be numbers like how many new clients have we brought on board. There should be measures for the company. There should be measures for each function within a company. How do we know that marketing is successful? Is it because we have a really cool looking website? I hope not. I hope it's something more like, our goal is 10 marketing qualified leads per week. And the third discipline is having a consistent planning and communication rhythm. And that's all about things like annual planning, quarterly planning, monthly check-in and education, weekly accountability meetings, daily huddles. It's all about making sure that you are both planning the business and communicating in a consistent rhythm that A, serves the business, and B, gives you an opportunity to hold yourself and others accountable for those things you said you were going to do.
Well, Mike, how many priorities do you think is the right number? And is there a method that you recommend to actually get people aligned around a small number of priorities?
The smaller number, the better. I think if a company has one monster priority this quarter or this year, wow, we're focused. It's often difficult to come up with one without leaving some other things out. When I work with my clients, I try and get them to 2, 3, or 4. And I tell them I will not allow them as a coach, as if they report to me, which they don't, but for some reason they listen to me anyway. I say I will not allow them to have more than 5. So it's somewhere between 1 and 5. Normally it's 3 or so. To me, the most important part of the planning and communication rhythm is the quarterly planning session. And the reason that's important is because in 90 days, typically, although we've all seen craziness over the last 3 years or so, in 90 days, the world is typically not going to change all that much. In a year, it will. In 3 years, of course it will. But in 90 days, you can pretty much count on the world not changing that much. And in 90 days, you're building a sense of urgency. If I say I'm going to lose 25 pounds over the next year, I could have a piece of chocolate cake today and still get that done. If I say I need to lose 10 pounds this quarter, I'm not going to make that mistake. So the way I do it with my clients is I do it quarterly. I work with a leadership team, which is typically 5, 6, 7 people. And very simply, I ask them each to write down on Post-it notes, what do you think the 3 most important things we need to improve upon or accomplish as a company? What are they? We get all those up on a flip chart and then we debate them. We debate them through and we wind up agreeing on what are those 2, 3, 4 most important things. And then we assign accountability, one and only one person who owns each one of those.
Okay, so with that said, how do you then get people to follow through on their priorities?
There's a small number of really important things that need to happen there. Number one is it's not enough to say my priority this quarter is I'm going to increase our marketing qualified leads by 35%. You need a plan. Because if I say I'm going to increase it by 35% throughout the quarter, how am I going to hold you accountable? If that's all I've got at the end of the quarter, you're going to say, sorry, it was only 12%. The quarter's already done. So what we need to do as leaders is make sure whoever is accountable for that quarterly priority, that there are milestones. By the end of week 3, we're going to have this number of marketing qualified leads. By the end of week 7, we're going to have this. By the end of week 12, we're going to be here. So number one, there's got to be a plan, or what are we holding people accountable for? That's number one. Number two is part of the planning and communication rhythm that I recommend is what I call the weekly accountability meeting. And in the weekly accountability meeting, one of the key things is actually going around to whoever owns the different priorities, looking at their plan and holding folks accountable for what they said they were going to do. So Nicole, it says on your plan, you were going to have 12 marketing qualified leads by today. I'm seeing we've only got 6. What's going on? How could we help you? What do you need to do differently? How are you going to get back on track? So it's a matter of having that forum. And to me, it's got to be that weekly accountability meeting, because if you let things go too long, accountability dies. I've also seen in that weekly accountability meeting, people not meeting their goals, and the CEO or whoever's leading the meeting might say, yeah, okay, Nicole, I know you were really busy next week. Pete, how are you doing? Oh, I didn't get a chance to follow through. Okay, well, do better next. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. These are commitments that everybody made. Don't let them off the hook so quickly. So part of it is, if you're a leader facilitating that weekly accountability meeting, you've got to hold people accountable and ask those tough questions.
Well, Mike, finally, you said that the third discipline was the right planning and communication rhythm, or the right meeting rhythm. Aren't people already in too many meetings?
No. I'll say that no. I think people are in too many bad meetings.
Right.
That's the issue. Meetings without an agenda. Meetings that go in 12 different directions. Meetings that are, God, I hate the term status meetings. To me, status meeting is everybody sitting around waiting for someone else to give status that they don't care about. And they're looking at their watch and saying, I have real work to do. So I think there are way too many bad meetings. But I think as an organization, and especially if you're a leader within an organization, you might complain, I'm spending half my day or 3/4 of my day in meetings. That's where you should be. You should be working with other people to make critical decisions, to come up with plans, to hold people accountable, to collaborate on opportunities, to collaborate on issues. Those are wonderful things to be doing. And in my book and with my clients, I get fairly prescriptive in talking about the need for the annual planning meeting. And there's a very specific agenda for what happens in an annual planning meeting, in a quarterly planning meeting, in a monthly check-in and education session, in a weekly accountability meeting, and even in a 8 to 12 minute daily huddle. There are specific agendas with reasons for each of those agendas. So I think if you do it right, meetings are really, really powerful, and we shouldn't be afraid of being in meetings. But boy, if you do it wrong, we're in too many bad meetings, and that's a big time waster.
That was Mike Goldman, leadership team coach, speaker and author. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow at BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.